Blog Talk Radio.
It's the future, folks. Hey, folks, welcome to Blog Talk Radio. This is a book chatter. I am your host, Stacy Cochran, and we're having a really low-key night this week. Last weekend I was in Indianapolis for BoucherCon, and so I think what we're going to probably do tonight is really just talk a little bit about the direction of the show, some interesting technology that we've seen in the past couple of weeks. So I guess, Holly, the big news this past week has been the Barnes & Noble release of the Nook. What are your thoughts on the Nook?
Well, as a reader, I think it's fantastic to have another wireless reading device out there. And Barnes & Noble's boast that they have over 1 million books available for download. I think that Amazon has something like 350,000. I started doing a little bit of research on it. But what's really unique about the Nook is that whenever you walk into a Barnes & Noble store with your Nook, you'll actually get like these exclusive offers just by walking into a Barnes & Noble. So they're incorporating their physical storefronts as well as their, basically their online storefront as well. But another thing that the Nook offers that the Kindle doesn't is sharing. You can lend a book to other readers. I think other people who have Nooks, and also you can lend it to, so you can send it to someone's email or their computer as well. And the Kindle does not offer that.
Yeah, that's a really cool feature.
Kind of, yeah, I think that the only thing though is as an author is kind of like. I guess with a paperback book, obviously, you think of lending a paperback book, but you never really think about lending an ebook.
Take care.
Someone.
Have a good night.
Oh, I need the discs.
The discs?
The Final Cut.
Oh, yeah. Do you mind getting the Final Cut discs upstairs?
Are they in a box or something?
Yeah, they're up on the shelf upstairs. Sorry, we've got some technical difficulties behind the scene here. We've just kind of been hanging out here this Friday evening at the house, chatting a little bit about film, and I shot a short film a couple of weeks ago with a buddy of mine, and we actually had quite a little crew together, so we've been talking about pulling that together. You should show the app that you've got.
It's not working.
Oh, it's not.
I don't know why. It says not connecting.
Huh.
Those phones are no good.
So this Nook thing, and Holly, they're saying that there's 1 million books on the Nook. Is that, I mean, that's not where we're at right now. There's not actually 1 million titles on there as yet. That's like where they want to be in a short while, right?
No, I think that they actually already offer over 1 million books. From what I've read, I mean, that's what they're boasting right now.
Have you figured out how,
Yeah.
as an author, to get your titles onto this Barnes & Noble Nook?
I believe just through Smashwords you can do it. Like the premium distribution through Smashwords.
Have a good night. Huh.
It's something that your book has to be approved for. They have Smashwords has a premium distribution style guide, and you have to follow it. I think it's like 47 pages, something like that. You have to follow it, and then they'll approve your book for distribution through Barnes & Noble.
So we're talking about the Barnes & Noble Nook, which is Barnes & Noble's new e-reader that they've just released this past week to compete with the Amazon Kindle, which has had a couple of years to develop. And I think they're priced, Holly, correct me if I'm wrong, they're priced about the same, aren't they?
Yes. Yes, and Amazon just released, or they're doing pre-orders right now for the Kindle, the International Kindle, which can be used in, I guess, certain countries, too. So
Yeah.
they're kind of upgrading the Kindle as well.
Have you noticed any dialogue on the Kindle International with your own books? Have you started chatting with any readers or anything from other countries who are checking out your book as yet?
No, but I did start participating in that Operation Ebook Drop, which we've talked about before. That Ed Patterson developed and using Smashwords, and that basically allows you to donate your book for free to deployed troops. So I've gotten quite a few really nice thank you emails from friends and family of soldiers.
Yeah, it's a great cause that Ed's kind of spearheading there. It looks like we have a question from over on the chat. I want to thank Charlie Pride for tuning in. And Charlie wants to know a little bit more about the Kindle. He says, I don't understand the Kindle. Is this mostly females buying the Kindle? So, Holly, can you talk a little bit about, for somebody like Charlie who's unfamiliar with the Kindle, what exactly is the Amazon Kindle?
The Amazon Kindle is a wireless reading device that allows you to upload a book through Amazon right to through the Kindle, and I think it's under 2 minutes, I believe. So you can, for people who see something like me, they're like, I want that right now. You can start reading immediately, almost immediately. I think I also saw something about Amazon started doing a same-day shipping service to certain cities in the U.S. where you purchase things on Amazon and they'll actually deliver them right to your door same day.
Huh, that's fascinating.
It's really cool, yeah.
So the actual reader
never have
itself.
to leave your house.
Yeah, you never have to leave home.
No.
You know, one of the interesting things I think I discovered today with the Kindle International, and of course, again, for folks unfamiliar with the Kindle is this digital reader whereby you can download up to like 1,500 books and carry it around. It's, you know, about as thick as a pencil and very lightweight and portable. And this past Monday, it went international, meaning up until Monday it was really only for sale for customers in the United States. But as of this past Monday, they've started selling the reader itself, the computer, the little handheld reader, to customers from around the world, literally 100 countries. And I think one thing that kind of came out of the discussion this week that was kind of interesting to me was the difference in price for people buying the books in the U.S. in comparison to other countries. And I had never even considered, you know, the fact that how good we have our sales tax, particularly for internet purchases in the United States. But I discovered that a lot of international customers are having to pay, you know, anywhere between 15 and 25% sales tax on these books.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredibly high.
Yeah, I thought so too. And then there's a delivery fee as well for Kindle International customers. I think it's a $1.99 per download.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
you'd be paying. I mean, that almost defeats the purpose of having a wireless reading device that works in other countries, because you may as well buy a paperback for that price. I mean, if you're looking at like a James Patterson book priced at $9.99 plus the sales tax plus $1.99 per download, I mean, you're looking at a hardcover price.
yeah, it's not quite that bad, but it is. The cost for a copy of the Colorado Sequence in the U.S. to a Kindle owner is $1. I mean, it's a very affordable $1. And for somebody in Denmark or Sweden, where the VAT or the tax in that country is about 25%, plus this shipping cost as well, the cost comes out to about $3.50. So $1 in the U.S. versus $3.50, for somebody in Sweden or Denmark. I think it's enough of a difference that I don't know. It was a little bit shocking to me. I was like, well, wow. I wonder how prohibitive that cost is for potential customers.
Right, and it almost seems like they're not. Maybe Amazon wasn't really prepared for like the international wireless WhisperNet delivery. Because if they're charging that much for it, then it just seems like something's missing.
Well,
I bet you in the future, especially now with the Nocted, that'll kind of disappear.
Well, I think that's true. I think where we're at now, that there's a major, book retailer like Barnes & Noble who has an e-reader, and of course it's brand new. It's literally this week that they've just released it. You know, the natural result of that is there'll be a little bit of competition. I think where Amazon has an edge, though, is they definitely have their customer relations down. It's very easy to upload the books. The tracking for number of books sold on the Kindle is, you know, really easy. It's very user friendly. And I don't know if Barnes & Noble is going to be able to replicate that kind of efficiency, that streamlined efficiency for independent authors who want to upload their books. I don't know.
Right. I wonder if it'll go through, like if you're looking at, for independent authors, uploading their books through Smashwords, then what kind of tracking will independent authors have through Smashwords? I mean, obviously, then our sales will be tracked through Smashwords, but what kind of delay are you looking at? You know, because with Amazon, it's instantaneous. You know, I see my sales right as they're occurring. So, you know, I wonder what kind of delay there will be with that, because it's going through a second party.
Yeah, and I know very little about Smashwords. I've been doing a lot of reading the past couple of days on it. So, yeah, I think, you know, from my perspective, having to go through Smashwords to get the book up onto the Nook, that's a bit of, you know, a pain in the ass. And, you know, I think it's something to do and explore, but it's not quite as efficient and streamlined as what Amazon has going on right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. The Nook, though, is from like a reader perspective, though, I'd say that it's a little more appealing just because I think it's really cool that you're going to get special deals just by walking into a Barnes & Noble store, you know, which is probably, I mean, really, whenever I'm buying a book, I still, you know, most of the time I do buy my books online, but sometimes I'll still go into a bookstore for, you know, bargain books and, you know, to kind of get a better idea of what to buy, you know.
One thing I saw.
Also, I think there's an extra memory cartridge for the Nook where you can store more books. And I don't think the Kindle has that.
Yeah, I wonder if Barnes & Noble has, you know, kind of taken some of the things that they have seen that worked well with the Kindle and some things that could probably work a little bit better, and they've just created a better reader, it sounds like. You know, I was at the SIBA trade show. For folks out there unfamiliar with SIBA, SIBA is the Southern Independent Booksellers Alliance, and it's basically an organization for support for independent booksellers in the South, and they have a trade show once a year, the Southern Independent Booksellers Alliance trade show, and at their trade show, all the publishers have all their books and all their new gadgets that they're coming out with. And publisher HarperCollins had a table, HarperCollins being, you know, a pretty big size major publisher based out of New York, and at their table they had a rack, like a comic book rack or magazine rack, and on the rack they actually had postcard-sized little flyers for books, and they hung on the rack, and you could take them off, and on the front of the postcard there was a front cover description and picture of a book, and then on the back there was the back cover description. And the idea was that an independent bookseller could have one of these racks actually in their store so that customers who happened to come into their store and wanted to support their independent bookseller and saw a book that they wanted to download onto their iPhone or BlackBerry Storm could buy it from the store. It was the first sign that I had seen of publishers thinking about how to connect with the booksellers and e-readers and downloadable books, which I thought was really kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, that's a really good idea because it's still something that a reader or customer would take with them, you know, or to kind of plant the seed.
Yeah.
You know, just knowing that, you know, this book is also available as an ebook. You know, because not every book is.
Yeah, it was the first,
which is amazing.
It is amazing, and I think one of the things that was most concerning to a lot of the independent booksellers was just this recent explosion in online books and how to capitalize on it. Looks like Charlie's asking a little bit about introducing ourselves. I guess we should do that. We're about 15 minutes into the show. This is coming. This is coming from the chat. If you want to instant message chat, my name is Stacy Cochran. I am a writer and producer in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've got a couple of books that have been doing remarkably well on Amazon's Kindle, which is the digital e-reading device that Amazon has put online. I produce an author interview TV show here in Raleigh, North Carolina called The Artist Craft, and this is kind of our low-key Friday night discussion here on Book Chatter. And I have on the line Holly Christine. Holly, you want to talk a little bit about some of your books and your background as well?
Sure. I'm the author of The Nyla as a Clemenza and Retail Ready. My books are available through Amazon and also Smashwords for ebook and paperback as well.
For somebody like Charlie, can you talk a little bit about the 9 Lives of Clemenza? What kind of novel is it? And I've heard the story a couple of times, but where did the idea for the 9 Lives of Clemenza come from?
Well, the idea for the 9 Lives of Clemenza began because I have a very bad behaved dog, and I wasn't able to read anywhere in the house because she would constantly jump up on the pages. So I resorted to reading in the bathtub without water, fully closed. And one day I was just reading in the tub, and the dog was just sitting there staring at me, and the sink faucet started dripping. And I started to think how odd it would be to be this one droplet of water, and kind of looking at life through that droplet of water's eyes. What would you make of this one scene of light? So Clemenza is able to, in the 9 Lives of Clemenza, she's able to choose the actual forms that her lives take. So it's kind of a different take on reincarnation, seeing that Clemenza is able to become whatever she wishes, and she takes the forms of some lives that you wouldn't necessarily think of as living and having souls. So it's giving a little more meaning to everything around us.
So that's Holly Christine. She is the author of The 9 Lives of Clemenza as well as Retail Ready. They both have just an excellent sort of quirky sense of humor underlying them, and I would encourage you to check them out. They're on Amazon, have been doing pretty well on Amazon Kindle. And so one of the things that we've talked a lot about here on Book Chatter on Friday nights for the past few months has really been the changing landscape of book publishing, and of course the recent explosion in digital books. One of the statistics that I saw, I picked up a flyer at some point at the SIBA trade show, and the increase in number of revenue, the amount of revenue for major publishers that has changed between 2001 and 2009, it's just, it's remarkable. And I think it was something like $1 million in sales in 2001, like industry-wide. And in 2009, it was up to, I think, $48 million in sales. And most of that increase has really occurred in the past 2 years with the advent of Amazon's Kindle. I think some of the things that are really interesting to me have been how it has leveled the playing field for independent authors, folks who have a book, and maybe you're watching the show tonight, you're a writer, you've got a book, and you're not exactly sure what to do with it. Well, there's an easy way to get the book online and into customers' hands. I think the last statistic I saw was that there have been almost 1 million Kindle units sold. So actual e-readers, there's been 1 million or close to 1 million actual units sold. So that's a very large number of folks who are hardcore book enthusiasts, willing and open to finding out about books and independent authors.
Absolutely.
Holly, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting this past week, talking about the Kindle and independent authors, was just the reception of Kindle owners for independent authors. So, maybe somebody's watching the show tonight and they have a book. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your perceived perspective on how Kindle readers have embraced or rejected independent authors. What's been your experience?
Well, I haven't sold 1 million copies of my book for Kindle, so I haven't reached everyone. But, I say that in general, just from joining the Kindle forums and the forums on Amazon for Kindle, there are a lot of readers out there, and Kindle readers in particular, I'd say, are, pretty serious readers, and they know what they want to read, and they also, I'd say that they read critically as well. They know what they're looking for. They're probably looking for something different. And, I say that a lot of them have definitely embraced the independent authors, and a lot of them have reached out and started new threads in the Kindle forums, like how can I search just for independent authors? And I think that's a great, I kind of thought about, maybe we should all tag each other as independent authors so that that readers would have a choice. But, there's still that really terrible stereotype that all self-published books are terrible and crappy and poorly edited, and there's a reason why they weren't picked up by a traditional publisher. And you made a really nice statement a few shows ago, and you said that if anything, there are a lot of people now who are self-publishing, but you said that you felt that it was kind of like we were becoming more competitive and becoming better writers because of it. Just knowing that, maybe we're good, but, we can always be better, and just kind of enjoying the competition of it all. So I think it's a wonderful, it's wonderful to be a part of it, because I really think that, maybe 5 years ago this would have been terribly depressing. But now there are so many of us, and so many that want to take it to the next level and want to break through, that, we're challenging each other, and we're coming up with new ideas, and everyone's ready to help everyone else out. So I think it's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. I want to remind folks who are watching that you can ask a question of me or Holly through the instant message chat. We have an instant message chat that you can click on to. We've had a couple of questions, and I want to thank Charlie for asking those questions. Also, if you'd like to call in, we have a phone number that you can call in with your live questions during the hour. That phone number is 914-803-4571. Again, that's 914-803-4571. I can see RJ Keller, who is the author of Waiting for Spring, is on the instant message chat, and she's just posted the number there in case you didn't catch it or write it down. So you can click on the instant message chat and see the number to call in is 914-803-4571 if you have questions about publishing, literary agents, Kindle, books, you name it. We're here to talk about it for the remainder of the hour. I've done a lot of thinking this past week, particularly post BoucherCon. BoucherCon is the World Mystery Writers Convention, which was held this past week in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I had the opportunity to attend, and I've had a lot of time. I think the long drive back from Indy gave me some time to think about the book marketing strategies that have worked on the Kindle. And I think one of the things that we're talking about here, Holly, that folks can kind of take from this conversation is that you really do have the opportunity. We really do have the opportunity to find a readership and build a readership, and it's a matter of some tried and true marketing principles at this point that have really worked. On Wednesday of this week, I totaled up the number of books that I have sold since June of this year. You can find out the data specifically on howtopublishabook.org, but quickly here I'll give you the rundown. I have 2 books that have been online since late May of 2009. The titles are The Colorado Sequence, which is an action suspense thriller, and Claws, which is a straight suspense thriller. And I had sold literally on Wednesday from May to this past Wednesday 2,500 copies of The Colorado Sequence, and I had sold, I think it was 1,396 copies of Claws. So almost half as many of Claws. And what this had done is it gave me the opportunity to think about what kinds of marketing strategies have worked in the past 4 or 5 months since these books went online, and you know, maybe things that that haven't worked quite as well. It's just given me an opportunity to kind of sit back and reflect on it. I wonder if you found yourself doing that as well. How long have your books been online, and have you found yourself kind of at this point, you know, in a different place thinking about Kindle and whether it works than maybe, you know, 4 or 5 months ago?
Oh, I definitely think that you know, making my book available for Kindle was one of the first things that I did whenever I decided to self-publish, and I think doing so has actually, you know, pricing it right. I mean, The 9 Lives of Clemenza was my first book, so I mean, I priced it at $1, and you know, just by pricing it, dropping a note in some of the forums, I got a lot of readers who were really interested in giving me some great feedback, and that kind of developed my confidence as well, and made me realize that this is definitely something that I want to do with my life. You know, that I always saw myself writing, I just didn't know how to make it work. So I think that, you know, the Kindle has definitely built up my confidence, and even like locally, not even related to ebooks, I'm doing things that, you know, like setting up readings at local libraries. And from there, I'm developing a readership, but not only that, but networking with other writers in the area as well. So, you know, Kindle has definitely helped me with, number one, confidence.
Very cool. I can see Sam Landstrom, who is a very successful Kindle author, has joined us on the instant message chat. Sam, I'd encourage you, if you'd like to call in and join in the chat, we'd love to hear some of your insights. I know you've had some experience recently with the with getting your books on MobiPocket and using MobiPocket as a vehicle to you know, use price changes that you're unable to use on the DTP, the digital text platform, through Kindle. So feel free to give us a call, Sam, if you want to talk a little bit about MobiPocket. I'd love to hear some of your insights on that. The number to call in is 914-803-4571. This is Book Chatter. I am your host, Stacy Cochran, with my co-host, Holly Christine. Holly is the author of The 9 Lives of Clemenza and Retail Ready. It looks like Sam's going to try to find a phone and maybe give us a call here in the final few minutes of our show. You know, Sam's a perfect example of somebody who, you know, has really found his readership and has experimented with some marketing strategies that I think are really smart. You know, he has this book, Metagame, which is a science fiction novel, sort of in the tradition of Philip K. Dick. And it's just, you know, it's really a brilliantly done novel, Metagame, and he initially...
It's the perfect way to market it.
Yeah, you know, and he
you know,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's the perfect way to market it, because Metagame, and I'm just remembering this from a few shows ago whenever Sam was on the show as well. Metagame was about a world, basically a gamer world, and kind of taking everything to the next level with gaming. And, you know, so if you're looking from that perspective, you know, those are people who are online. You know, so making his book available for Kindle was I think his book is still only available for Kindle. I don't know if I'm correct in that.
Yeah, I'd love
to. Making his book available for Kindle was a brilliant decision, and then marketing it to Kindle users, because, I mean, gamers are people who would probably own a Kindle. And, I mean, let's face it, I mean, video games are just, they're story building and fiction as well. You know, it's just kind of sucking you into this fictional world.
It does seem like a perfect match. You know, the story is right in line with the kinds of things that I think Kindle readers really embrace. They definitely, from what I've seen, they are very embracing of science fiction thrillers, stuff in the tradition of James Rollins and anything that kind of has sort of a techno edge to it, I think you're absolutely right. They really do embrace, and it's interesting. You know, I had sent out. Looks like we have him calling in here, so let's go ahead and take the call. Hey, is this Sam?
Yeah, it is. You got me?
Yeah. How's it going tonight?
Hey, how are you all?
We're doing all right. So we have on the line Sam Landstrom. He is the author of Metagame, which is a book that's available on Amazon Kindle. Where else is the book available, Sam, or where will it be available?
Well, I mean, I put it up on MobiPocket, as you know, and I have put it up on Smashwords, but I'm having problems with the formatting on there, so I'm going to fix that. And then last of all, I have a website, samlandstrom.com, and from there you can just download it for free.
Now, you made the decision a couple of weeks ago, or I guess it's been a couple of months ago now, to take the version, or take a version of Metagame and put it up on MobiPocket for a penny, right? And then it shows up on Amazon for a penny. So basically giving away free copies of it to build a readership. How has that worked? How's the experiment worked out for you?
It worked better than I expected. It just went crazy. I mean, as soon as it got to a penny, I went ahead and created my website where I could go ahead and give it away for free, because I figured that, free is even a little bit better. Some people don't like to see, a penny even on their credit card statement and such. Anyway, I set up the website, and then I went ahead and hit some of the major forums where Kindle readers and authors hang out, and just said, hey, I got my book for free, and, if you want to spend a penny, go ahead and just go through the regular WhisperNet route. And it seems like most people went ahead and just went to the Amazon store and got it that way. And that kind of primed the pump. After a couple, maybe like only a day or so, I broke into like the top 100 of Kindle, Amazon Kindle overall, and drove all the way down to like number 12. At which point,
Wow.
I was halted. And
Wow.
it went really well. I was shocked, and the people, folks on the forum were great. They responded really well, as they always do, and so they helped get it up onto the top 100. And once it got on there, it just rode. It just sat there, and I didn't do anything in particular. I had to work, and so I wasn't promoting it. It was just by the nature of the fact that it was on there, that it just continued to sell and stay on there for, I don't know, like almost a month, until I jacked the price up. Ha ha ha.
Whenever you sell through MobiPocket, does that, like if someone were to purchase your book through MobiPocket, does that translate to Amazon rankings? Or is it only through Amazon that, like if someone were to purchase the book for Kindle through WhisperNet, that your ranking is affected?
Yeah, it's just through the Kindle store that your rank is affected. I've sold next to nothing on MobiPocket.com itself. I think I've sold like 2 copies.
Wow.
So it's absolutely, I hate to say it, but I mean it's really pretty much useless from that perspective. The only way it's useful is by the fact that it links over and gets into the Kindle store. And of course, DTP, everybody's using that, including myself. That's actually kind of a better system. It has better sales reporting, for instance. Like you can check it every day, even every hour, although it's, of course, not incredibly accurate. But nevertheless, MobiPocket, it's like every month. And you've got to wait until like the 15th of the next month to see the previous month. And it's always
wow.
And I haven't gotten paid from them, so I'm not even, I don't even have that level of trust set up. Meanwhile, with DTP, I've been getting paid, on a regular basis, and I trust them quite a bit.
Right.
I had my share of problems with DTP, but overall, I'm pretty, at least I trust them, and I know what I'm getting.
And,
So.
Right.
and Sam,
It's so much easier to track.
Yeah, it is a lot more streamlined. I think, and I think that that's an advantage for at least for the independent authors that the Kindle has over the Nook, like we were talking about a little while ago. I'm curious, if do you have a ballpark figure of how many downloads that you were getting during that month that it was, virtually free on Amazon Kindle?
Oh, well, I did get my previous month, and I got, it had been on the top 100 for 10 days of the report. And so I looked at the report, and it was 3,200 downloads.
Wow.
And so, yeah, per day, that's probably on average about 320 per day. And the deal was is that I oscillated between a high point of a rank of 12 and then maybe down to about 40. So within that range, the average was about 320. So if you were at 12, I'm sure the actual number or average was much higher than 320 a day, because that was the high point. And I didn't stay on 12 for more than a couple days before I started to sink a little bit.
Well,
and,
sinking from
and I imagine the difference between number 12 and number 1 is probably like orders of magnitude in size.
Well, for folks watching at home, this is we have on the line Sam Landstrom, who is the author of Metagame. You can check out Metagame at Amazon.com. It's been doing extraordinarily well on Amazon's Kindle. We're talking a little bit about the marketing strategies behind setting a really low price point. And I think it's worth noting for folks who aren't familiar with Amazon rankings, when you're saying 12th, that's 12th out of 350,000 books. Yeah.
I was it was awesome just to see it. I took screenshots. I was taking screenshots like every hour each time it kept going down on the rank. I was so psyched about it and jumping around and everything.
Well, I think it's really interesting, and so now what you're beginning to do, it looks like, from what I've been able to see from checking it from time to time online, is you're kind of playing around with the price. Once you get a really solid ranking, then you have this really great visibility, and folks are seeing it. So if you bump the price back to $2 or whatever, presumably you're going to sell some copies at that $2 price that you wouldn't have done otherwise if it hadn't ever been low to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. I am experimenting right now. So what happened is about on day 26 on the top 100, I was just eroding. Like my ranking was just starting to erode anyway, and I was getting up into the 70s and 80s and whatever. And so I figured, well, I'm about to fall off it anyway, so I want to just see how quickly I'll fall if I go ahead and raise the price up to $3. And it held there for a little bit, and I was like, holy crap, I could be making like $150 a day. And I was like, but then I started falling. I think by the end of the day I was off the top 100, and I just kept hemorrhaging rank over, each hour I'd lose like 10 places, until I got to about 240 or so, and then all of a sudden I bounced, what I call bouncing, which is when you're going down, and then you stop, and then you start to go up again, which to me is some kind of indication that you might start to gain another equilibrium and another kind of stability point. And so then it bounced, and then for whatever reason, it bounced below it got down to like 150 again. But to me, it was like, and I had lowered my price from $3 to $2. But to me, it was like, if I can stay in that range, even just charging $2, I think you'd be making a fair amount of money. I haven't seen the numbers yet because I won't see it till the 15th of next month.
Well, that'll be interesting when the month is revealed to see how well that works. I've been following largely your lead, and I think the fellow who wrote Soul Intent and Soul Identity, whose name escapes me right this moment.
Batchelder.
Batchelder.
What's that?
Batchelder?
Dennis Batchelder. That's right.
Yeah, I remember his first name. He works at Microsoft like me. He emailed me out of the blue, and I was like, "How did you even know I wrote that book?" And he wrote Full Identity, and I don't know, it was just kind of a small world. But
Well, following
so
on,
yeah, he's doing the 1 cent thing too.
well, following on you guys' lead, I did it about a month ago, but I don't think I knew what I was doing on Moby Pocket. I tried to take, I've got a collection of short stories, which are science fiction, crime fiction stories that I put out on Lulu about 5 years ago. Maybe have sold 24 copies in paperback, so it never really went anywhere in paperback. But since I've been doing really well on Kindle, I was like, well, maybe I should republish these short stories or one or two of them on Kindle. And so what I decided to do was take the title story from the collection, the Kiribati Test, which is a science fiction thriller sort of inspired by Philip K. Dick, and it's a novella. And I said, well, let's put this up on Moby Pocket and offer it, for a penny, the lowest price that I possibly can, and try to have it act as a marketing leader and see if it affects the sales of the Colorado Sequence and Claws, and more recently Amber Page, which I've just put online in the past week. But as you know, Sam, we had chatted about this online through the forums, but I had done something, I needed to activate the ebook, and I think I've just done that in the past day or two, so it'll be interesting, it'll be a really neat experiment to see if it actually can get on Amazon for a penny, and there are other books for it to act as a marketing leader for, if it will affect the sales of the other books, which are priced at $1 and $2, and I think it will. I mean, it makes sense
Absolutely.
that if you had that visibility, if I can get the Kiribati Test to rank inside the top 100, that visibility would lead to sales of the other books, I would imagine.
Oh, that's a tried and true marketing technique. They even have a name for it. It's called loss leader. So you're basically giving one away, but the idea is that you that you spur sales of your others. But and it's easy to give something away when it doesn't cost you anything to produce. So I think it's a very solid strategy.
Absolutely, that's a great.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you. I was saying that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more than one book. I probably would have left Metagame at a penny, and not that I even cared. I mean, I was hoping to just kind of have my cake and eat it too, but I don't know. A part of me just wanted to leave it at a cent and just just try to get maximum exposure. But one of the things I wanted was a lot of reviews, and I got quite a few reviews. So once I kind of got up, over 30 some, I was like, okay, well, I kind of got part of what I wanted for the 1 cent exposure, and so it was time to start playing with it. But right now, I mean, I'm kind of feverishly working on my next novel because I want to get it out, kind of for part of the reason why what Stacy just mentioned, which cross one book from the next, and people have been asking, well, when are you going to put out another novel? I'd buy it, and so it'd be nice to have that for them.
Going along with the reader reviews, we talked about this a little while ago about Amazon's Encore program, and that they were taking books that maybe weren't selling so well, but were very well reviewed, and that the people who had actually purchased the books thoroughly enjoyed what this author had to say, and then Amazon then backs the book and does their own marketing of the book. And Kayla Kluver was the first with Legacy, but I haven't heard anything else. I kind of thought that this was kind of, at the minimum, to be that they would represent someone maybe like quarterly, a new author every quarter, but I haven't even heard another word of it. And just what Sam was saying with reviews, I mean, 30 reviews is quite a lot of reviews, especially considering how many books that you've sold. So about 1% of your sales, the readers are actually taking the time to review your book. So I wonder if Amazon's ever going to get back on track, like what exactly they're looking for with the Encore program, and if that will continue. Because it seems to me that them representing, say, Metagame or the Colorado Sequence, that would just be a no-brainer for for Amazon. You know, I wonder if they're stopping that completely. Not to completely change the subject. that was a Holly tangent.
I remember seeing that and thinking that was kind of cool, but I figured it'd be a long shot that like they would pick me. I will admit that one of the reasons, or one of the things that crossed my mind as metagames started getting up closer even to like the number one slot. I mean, you know, getting into the like the front page was, boy, I wonder if anybody's going to call me or anything. And
right.
and no one did, by the way. Just FYI. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's up there. I don't know if anyone's watching, really, quite frankly. At least in the industry.
I think you'd be surprised. I think what I found, I was at BoucherCon this past week, and both John Rector and the fellow who wrote The Ark, whose name is escaping me right, is Boyd Morrison. Both of them were there, and you guys both know, Holly and Sam, that their books have been picked up by major publishers. And so I had the opportunity, kind of hung out quite a bit with John and chatted with him a lot about some of the changes and transition from having a book, you know, that's self-published on Kindle to now having a major publisher like Tor Forge. I had a nice conversation with Boyd, and what I'm realizing is that people in that small community know what's going on. And there was a literary agent there who I had never met, but I'd seen her name on blogs, and but I'd never met her. And she said, "Oh, you know, I know you. I know your name. You blog a lot, and you know, she had kind of heard of me through the grapevine." And the point is that I think you'd be surprised how many people really are kind of keeping an eye on how ebook authors are doing, and particularly independent ebook authors. What we really need is we need folks like John and Boyd and maybe a few others to sell to these major publishers and then kick ass with the major publishers.
Right.
And then you're going to see
Absolutely.
publishers going, okay, well, let's check out that Kindle thing and see if there are any independent authors that haven't been picked up yet. Yeah.
Right.
So I think we're getting there.
I think that one thought on this is just that, like I haven't seen my numbers as far as since I've raised the price, but one thing I was thinking is just like for my next novel, I'm not sure I'm even going to send it to any publishers at all, or to any agents or anything else. I sent Metagame to half a dozen or so, and then I just kind of bogged down with it because it was rather time consuming, and Kindle just kind of availed itself. But for my next one, I may just go Kindle, and just try to keep it like if you could just keep it within a couple hundred in the rank. You probably start making, if you're selling like 50 a day per book, and $2 or $2 or $3 a book. Of course, you only get 35% of that, but you could start making about as much money as you would if you had gotten at least the typical $5,000. Okay, you're a brand new author type situation. What I don't like though is that I really want to get into bookstores. That's the one issue. I mean, a lot of this is not. It's not about money because if you're in it for the money, forget it.
Right.
There's a lot easier ways to make money, but it's to get exposure and to get more readers. And until you get into the bookstores, it's going to be tough. But on the other hand, I've seen. I was reading this analysis that was thinking they were going to have like 10 million Kindles sold within 16 months or whatever, which I thought was a little much. But the Kindles lowered their price twice in the last like 8 months or something. I don't know what it was, but I just bought one, and then they lowered the price 2 days later.
Oh,
dang it! I paid $300, and now it's $250. What's it going to be a year or two from now? If they ever get it down to like, $50 or something, which sounds crazy, but that is kind of what laptops are compared to what they were before. And
That's very true.
just kind of Moore's Law. And now that Nook has come out, I know I saw some of you guys on the forum, at least you, Stacy, on the forum, with Nook is what Barnes & Noble's answer to the Kindle. So, if you start getting competition there, I mean, number one, it'd be great if we could sell books on those other devices, but also, once the competition shows up, Amazon has to step up and start keep their quality high for their devices and lower their prices in order to stay competitive, which is all good for us.
Well, I think it's an interesting point. The point being, there's this desire on the part of us as aspiring writers to have books, actual paperbacks and hardcovers in bookstores, but competing with that is this absolute explosion in e-reader sales. You can't help but think of the cliche, the grass is always greener on the other side, but, knowing what you know about marketing metagame, if you could just kind of focus on hunkering down, I'm sure this is kind of what you're thinking, and put out a couple of really good novels over the next 12 to 36 months, at the very least you're going to have a lot of fun doing it and have a lot of readers who are reading your books and are enjoying the books. And I mean, isn't that what it's really all about?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the bottom line. I think
It's great to know that I'm writing. When it helps to motivate you to write when you besides the fact that I really enjoy writing, and it's more or less one of the only things as far as other things that I could be doing at any given time. Writing is way up on the list, but aside from that, it's just really nice to know that you're going to sell hundreds, if not thousands, of those books, and you're going to. There's no maybe about it.
How would you ever know that? I mean, even if you had, a deal, say, using the example of Boyd Morrison, how would he ever know? I guess what I'm trying to get at is just having a publisher back your work doesn't by any means guarantee the sales that you may have already had. What we're doing with marketing and what you and Stacy are doing, particularly with marketing your book online, what more would a publisher bring to it other than perhaps paperback sales and bookstores, and not even guaranteed sales, just maybe one book in one bookstore, what does that bring to the table? And I think that that's a good example of how things are definitely changing.
One thing that, besides the books in the bookstore and just kind of maximizing my distribution so I can have, if you're going to go through the trouble to write a book, and it is a significant amount of work, as you all know, you want to have as many people read it as possible. Besides that, the other thing that I really like is, editing support. Oh, man. And it even shows in some of the reviews. If you look over some of the reviews, they've gotten better lately, but where I would get dinged was on the editing, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, oh, God, I substituted somebody's name. Who's this person? I just, oh, wow, okay, well, fixed it, of course, and that's the great thing about an ebook is I could fix it. But the editing, my wife edited it, and I rewrote, and I spent, the two of us spent so much time on that, and I have to say that, sometimes it'd just be nice to offload a little of that onto, a professional who really knows their stuff, and me concentrate more on doing what I can do best, which would be, writing the material to begin with.
Well, I think it's a really interesting point, too. I don't know if either of you guys have read Joe Conrath's blog from this past week. Are you familiar with that?
Yes. I was going to bring that up, too.
It seemed to be kind of the direction that we were talking, so maybe in our last few minutes here we could kind of clarify what we're talking about. Of course, I want to remind folks who are watching or listening at home that this is Book Chatter. I am your host, Stacy Cochran. I'm on with my co-host, Holly Christine, and we have on a guest, Sam Landstrom, who is the author of Metagame. You can check out Metagame on Amazon, as well as Holly's books, Retail Ready and The 9 Lives of Clemenza. You know, the thing that Joe pointed out, that I'm sure you guys have thought a lot about this past week if you were reading his blog, is that there's an author named Joe Conrath, if you've not heard of him, and he posted on his blog his sales numbers from the first part of this year on Amazon Kindle. And to kind of cut to the chase, what he realized was that he's actually losing money giving the rights to his books to actual major publishers. He had published, I think, 5 or 6 novels with Hyperion, which is a division of Disney, and he wasn't making enough money through the hardcover and paperback sales of his books to counter how much money he was losing by not having control of the ebook rights of the books and selling them on his own. And I think it's a hell of an interesting point. You know, you've got a mid-list author who is not a New York Times best-selling author, and by giving his book to a major publisher, he's actually losing money. And I mean, he lives off of how much money that he makes from his books sold. And if you're making $20,000 to $30,000 a year, you know, if you're losing $10,000 by giving your rights to a publisher, it's a heck of a good question of, well, do I want to even give the rights to a publisher and try to go that way with my next book? Which it sounds like, Sam, that's exactly what you're contemplating and considering right now.
Yeah, I know this much. I mean, unless all of a sudden all my sales dry up and I realize that this whole strategy is crap, which I don't anticipate. But my plan right now is I'm not even going to pause after it's finished and after it's been edited. I'm sticking it straight up on Kindle, and I'm going to go from there. And by doing so, I realize that I'm probably borrowing the book from a publisher, but I don't care. I'm going to publish it straight up without sending it out to anyone. And maybe I'll send it out to a few afterwards, but I'm not going to waste any time because you know there's no point in it just sitting on my hard drive on my computer when it could be out there in people's hands and you know so.
Absolutely, especially with what you've done so far. I mean, I think that maybe 5 years ago or 8 years ago, that it would have hurt you to self-publish first. But now, I mean, all you're doing is, you know, proving your sales first, and also, you know, you're already building your readership. You know, and I think that's the most important thing. Obviously, is having a connection with readers, is developing something that someone else genuinely enjoys.
Yeah, exactly. If you can, you know, it just makes even sense economically. I mean, it's a good business model in that you're creating something that's high quality and you're giving it away for a very low price. It's like, why wouldn't that sell? Exactly. Except for, you know, not getting the exposure to begin with. But, you know, a lot of us have been, you know, trolling through and figuring out how to get that initial exposure. And once you get it, it just compounds and builds on itself, each novel that you create. And yeah, and once you create your new novel, of course, then your old novel is going to sell better, which will give that a nice boost. So anyway, it's kind of exciting, really, I think.
I agree with you.
Well, guys, in our last minute or so here, it looks like we have about a little over a dozen viewers listening, and presumably they're Kindle authors or aspiring authors themselves. What ideas have really, marketing-wise, with the Kindle and your books? Sam, why don't you get us started? What ideas have kind of really excited you the most in the past week or two? You've now got this knowledge base of seeing, holy cow, if I put the book up for free or for a penny, you know, I can get 3,000 or 4,000 people in a matter of a couple of weeks who will download the book. What kinds of ideas have really been kind of really exciting to you marketing the book here in the past few weeks?
Well, like I said, giving it away either for free and or for a penny is one piece, just to kind of prime everything and just get it into a lot of people's hands. But again, you kind of have what's almost an old-fashioned idea now, because it's like 4 months old now, is the hitting the
10 seconds.
the forums in order to prime that up, because even a 1 penny book just isn't going to just run across enough people's. It's a virtuous cycle, and the more you sell, the more you sell. And the less you sell, the less you sell. It's vicious as well, and so you kind of have to have that primer as well as a high quality product for a really low price. So I guess the one thing that's kind of newer to me is just giving it away on my website. I've had probably 1,000 downloads just from that website, which has nothing to do with Kindle. Or, I mean, it has nothing to do with the Kindle store. And, I mean, that gets it into people's hands, and I put it on there. I'm like, hey, you can download this, but karmically speaking, you know, tell people about it, and, you know, go to the Kindle store and, you know, leave a review if you want, or, you know, go on to the forums and ping it, you know, bump it, whatever. All those things have actually helped. I know people just from my website have come on and like bumped my forum thread. They've gone over and given me reviews. They have, of course, just emailed me directly, and which is always great. I like to hear from people. So just giving it away for free can really, and I get more and more visits every day. I get like probably a good 20, 30 people who are downloading a day off my website. So that's just a nice extra way to market on the side, kind of a deal.
It's great suggestions.
Absolutely.
Holly, what kinds of things would you like to think about for next week's show? We haven't really talked much about that. Where would you like to go in the next week or two?
I would kind of like to see if we could get J.A. Conrath on the show. From what I'm seeing in the chat room, I guess that he had made a comment about indie authors on the Kindle boards this past week. I didn't see it, but I'd love to check that out. And I know that he has a bunch of interesting stuff too. You know, he has a lot of knowledge on the subject, obviously, because he's kind of on both sides, a bit of both sides here, still publishing a lot of his novels independently and traditionally as well. So I think it would be interesting to get that kind of perspective on the show.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on. I know we had him on 2 weeks ago in preparation for BoucherCon. Maybe it'd be really cool to have him, and he has got a co-author for this book, Serial, which has had 150 reviews. Hachette Books Grand Central put it up online for free, and he was one of the first authors that I had seen who was putting a book up for free as a loss leader, as you called it, Sam. That really, I think that really put him on the map on Kindle. I'd love to have him on. Sam, any ideas, any thoughts, suggestions for things to talk about?
Well, actually, you just brought one up. Something I've been really wanting to know is how to get my book for free on Kindle. I think it's something that only the traditional publishers can do, but I just wanted to find out, you know, if that was true, if you could get Conrath on there. That would be, because he did it. Well, with Serial, it was zero. See, the thing is, everybody thinks that a penny and a zero is pretty much the same, and at least from this book I just read, Free is the name of it, and it's basically the business of free. There's a big difference, apparently, psychologically, but also just on the practical sense, because you don't make it on to any of the free lists that they have out there, and there are several out there that people use heavily where, you know, they list all the free books, and when people do searches for free, they're not going to see your book. And so zero and a penny is actually a world of difference. Makes no difference to you as far as the money you make, because
Sure.
I noticed that they round down the penny to zero for the 3,200 that I sold that 10 days on there. So I got nothing for it, but which is fine. I'd really love to find out if I could get my book on there for free, because honestly, it's a really big advantage that those traditional publishers seem to have, and yet I don't really see why they would necessarily have that
What is
advantage.
the Amazon has a program? Is it called Amazon Advantage? I'm thinking where it's a paid service through Amazon, but it gives you priority as an independent publisher. I wonder if that would apply to the Kindle. I know I had some friends who had used that when they were self-publishing, trade paperback books to get the books listed months in advance with covers and the search inside the book feature. It might be worth doing some exploring there and seeing if the Amazon Advantage program can be applied towards getting a book on Kindle for free, because you're absolutely right, Sam. I think you're going to get a lot of downloads at 1 penny, but man, if you could throw a book up there for free and just leave it up there as a lost leader, it's going to get you some visibility.
Oh, yeah, forget everything. If you can do that, you got a nice looking cover, you got a zero price, and you got good reviews, you will go into the top 100 and you will stay there, because that's what you see up there. It's probably over 50% of the books on there are freebies, and a lot of them are just old-fashioned, very good books in most cases, obviously classics, but, they don't have they don't have the sexy cover, they don't have this or that, and they stay on there indefinitely. They don't have anyone, who's supporting it at all. It's just been tossed up there as public domain, and it's all about that zero. The zero is what you want, and I would happily pay, the price that assuming it's reasonable, to be a preferred, to get that worked out with Amazon.
Well, there, you got some homework. We got some homework we can do over the next week or two.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank it looks like we've got about almost a dozen viewers still on. Looks like 10 viewers still listening. We've had about 40 viewers, considering I did no promoting whatsoever for this. It's nice to have a few people tuning in here on Friday night to listen to us here on Book Chatter. Our guest tonight was Sam Landstrom. He is the author of Metagame. That's Metagame, Metagame, all one word. You can go check it out at Amazon.com if you haven't already. And for my co-host, Holly Christine, the lovely Holly Christine, who is the author of The 9 Lives of Clemenza, as well as Retail Ready, which are both available on Amazon Kindle. I want to thank you all and I should throw a shout out to RJ Keller, who has been feeling a little under weather this week, and she's been manning the chat as well. RJ Keller is the author of Waiting for Spring. For all of us here at Book Chatter, I want to thank you very much for listening to this week's show. We'll see you next week at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, guys, for joining me online tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great week. Bye-bye.